Good morning and welcome to the Department of Family and Support Services, our RFP webinar for the following re-releases. We have Youth Dedicated Shelter RFP, Permanent Supportive Housing RFP, and our Fuse RFP. Just a few housekeeping rules. Due to the volume of participants, everyone has been placed on mute. Please submit questions via the questions box and we'll respond to questions at the midpoint and end of the presentation. Please make use of the questions box when notifying us of any technical issues. Please be advised that this webinar is being recorded and anything stated at this webinar is not intended to change the solicitation document. Any changes will be in writing in a form of an amendment issued by the Department of Family and Support Services. The purpose of this webinar is to provide information for the solicitation. A copy of the recording will be posted on the DFSS YouTube channel with a link to the recording, and a PDF of the PowerPoint slides will be posted to the DFSS webpage at www.chicago.org under the Alerts and/or Funding Opportunities tabs. Please give this up to 5 business days to upload. DFSS retains the right to share a list of registrants to this webinar along with their contact and organizational information at our discretion. At this time, we're going to go through the welcome and the introductions. My name is Jillian Black. I am the procurement proposal coordinator, and I'm going to pass it over to our homeless team.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Kimberly Howard. I'm a director with the Homeless Services Division here at the Department of Family and Support Services. And I will pass over to Lucy to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lucy Morales. I am a project manager here at DFSS in the Homeless Division. Pass it to Nastasha.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Nastasha Flowers. I'm a project coordinator here with DFSS for the Homeless Division.
Thank you all. And at this time, we're going to go through the purpose, background, program description, and selection criteria of all 3 RFPs, along with the timeline, technical assistance for applications, and then last round for questions. So I will now pass it over to homeless team. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Jillian. So I'm going to start with just some quick context here. As you'll notice, we're covering sort of 3 RFPs on this webinar today. What they all have in common is they're all re-releases of RFPs that we released in April as part of the Community Development Grant Application or CDGA process. So I think please, as we go through, pay special attention to the specific services that we are requesting and guidance regarding eligible applicants. All of these are being re-released due to sort of insufficient applications received, but they are not exact re-releases of the RFPs. They are sort of narrowing down to fill gaps that we saw from applications that have come in to date. So with that, I will pass over to Lucy to kick us off with the Youth Dedicated Shelter RFP.
Hi, everybody. So the purpose of the Youth Dedicated Shelter RFP, RFP 56967, is that it was the prior shelter RFP was issued in April 2025. The prior RFP sought applicants to meet the shelter needs of single individuals, couples, families, youth, and those fleeing domestic violence and other specialized needs. Insufficient responses were received for shelter beds dedicated for youth ages 14 to 24 or 18 to 24. Therefore, the Homeless Division is issuing the current RFP, which seeks applications for up to 50 shelter beds dedicated to serving youth. These programs will support youth experiencing homelessness and moving to appropriate, stable, permanent housing while providing them a safe, accessible place to stay in the interim. Applicants who have already submitted proposals to operate youth beds under the prior RFP are not eligible to submit new proposals under this RFP. Next slide, please. The goal of this RFP is to seek providers to operate shelter programs that will support individuals, youth experiencing homelessness into moving into more appropriate and stable permanent housing while providing a safe space an accessible place for them to stay in the interims. Shelters will achieve this goal by assisting households in navigating appropriate housing options and connecting clients to community resources that will help them obtain and maintain housing through building income and addressing a variety of language, physical, mental, emotional, and other needs that they may have. Next slide, please. The current state of priorities, this is important. Priorities for improvement within the shelter system include expanding shelter access, decreasing length of stay, improving rehousing outcomes, ensuring fair access to services and outcomes for all populations served. You can find more information about each one of these priorities in the RFP. Next slide, please. The target population for the shelter is youth who are experiencing literal homelessness, and according to the federal homeless emergency assistance and rapid transition to housing definition that can be found in this link here. The target population served in this RFP is specifically households consisting of unaccompanied youth ages 18 to 24 or 14 to 24. Next slide, please. Program requirements must provide an accompanied youth experiencing homelessness with temporary shelter intended to resolve immediate experience of homelessness while providing services that address basic needs and connections to other supportive services without precondition and minimal requirements to stay. Program must not require preconditions such as sobriety, income, medication compliance, or any other barrier to entry or ability to reside in this program. Program must provide or connect to a flexible array of supportive services with a clear purpose to bridge participants to long-term housing options while keeping youth participants safe and engaged. Program must be welcoming and easy to access. Program must ensure staff are trained in positive youth development and have experience in working with vulnerable youth and, when applicable, their families. Program, if it's serving youth under 18, youth shelters must comply with relevant licensing and regulatory guidelines. Youth under 18 years old must be connected to comprehensive community-based youth services. All delegate agencies that work and interact with children must comply with Illinois Child Abuse and Reporting Act. Employees shall complete a mandated status form. Delegates shall require background checks for staff and volunteers prior to interaction. And more information on program requirements can be found in the RFP. Next slide, please. Performance goals and outcomes. To track progress towards achieving the outcome goals of this program and access success, DFSS will monitor a set of performance indicators for all shelter types that may include but are not limited to percentage of participants who access shelter to a more stable permanent destination, percentage of participants who exit shelter to a permanent housing destination, percentage of participants who maintain or increase income, percentage of participants who complete a CES assessment. Next slide, please. This is one of the selection criteria, community involvement. DFSS will evaluate application based on the following criteria. Respondent provides detailed evidence, examples that demonstrate an understanding of the defining characteristics of the population they plan to serve and is specific on both the strengths / assets and challenges / needs of the group. Respondent describes specific competencies developed to better serve target population, as well as how they would grow services or staff skills as needed. The respondent's leadership reflects or directly engages with people of the community it serves. Respondent describes specific mechanisms by which feedback is incorporated into the service delivery. Next slide, please. Selection criteria, organizational capacity. DFSS will evaluate applications based on the following criteria. Respondent is able to provide a full list of essential positions, personnel in areas mentioned and qualified for each position, like a LCSW, ties those positions directly to service delivery for client population and speaks in detail about the hiring, onboarding, and integration of new staff into the organization for this program. It is clear from the response that the staffing ratio are at least 1:30. Respondent describes a robust infrastructure around fiscal monitoring for their organization, which may include a dedicated staff person, regular audits, internal reporting, and other controls. Respondent clearly describes how they would enact all 4 priorities of improvement areas into their day-to-day and long-term operation. Applicant is able to speak to these priorities in their current operation or can identify areas for improvement in their operations where these priorities can be incorporated. Next slide, please. Selection criteria, strength of proposed program. DFSS will evaluate application based on the following criteria. The respondent clearly defines services to be provided directly or through partnerships, linkages agreements with other agencies that are appropriate to addressing needs of and achieving desired outcomes for target population. The respondent's proposed program is supported by a strong national or local evidence base and aligns with the COC core values. The respondent has an effective approach to identify and addressing the needs of program participants and keeping clients aligned with goals of individual growth and movement towards safe and stable situations. The respondent has partnership or coordinates with other agencies to expand or improve services in a client-centered, comprehensive way. Respondent details the ways in which a program would address conflict or at times high client need on site with the goal of retaining clients on site. Response aligns with discharge and ban policies submitted with the attachment and explains how these policies align with the COC values while also ensuring safety on site. Ban policy is fair and also aligned with the COC core values. Respondent details layout and amenities available for the proposed facility and how they would utilize these spaces to serve clients, including layout and number of families / individuals served per room or unit. Respondent details what spaces would be used for types of programming to be offered. Respondent speaks to all programs if applicable. Next slide, please. Selection criteria, performance management, and outcomes. DFSS will evaluate the application based on the following criteria. The respondent demonstrates evidence of strong past performance against desired outcomes and performance metrics and/or other notable accomplishment in providing services to the target population. The respondent has experience using data to identify problems in service delivery and informs / improves its services or practice. The respondent has experience in disaggregating data to identify disparities between different subgroups in their program delivery and outcomes. The respondent has an understanding of the importance of high bed utilization, how to achieve, track, and maintain it. And respondent describes how they ensure data is collected, entered, and sorted in an accurate and secure manner. If HMIS user, agency describes their process for HMIS data entry. If not an HMIS user, agency describes their process in a comparable system. Next slide, please. And last but not least, DFSS will evaluate application based on the following criteria for reasonable cost, budget justification, and leverage of funds. The respondent has the fiscal capacity to implement the program. The respondent leverages other funds and in-kind contributions to support total program and administrative cost, i.e. state, federal, foundation, corporate, or individual donations. The respondent demonstrates reasonable implementation costs and funding requests relative to its financial and human resources. The proposed budget supports the proposed scope of work. Next slide, please. The term of the contract under this RFP will be from January 1st, 2026 to December 31st, 2028, based on need, availability of funds, and contractor performance. DFSS will extend the term for up to 2 additional years, with each extension not to exceed 1 year. We anticipate that each award will be between $100,000 to $1 million annually, depending on the size and the scope of the proposed program. DFSS is anticipating to award 1 or 2 agencies for this proposal. We ask that you please submit a budget for 1 year, 12 months of services. Cost category definitions are attached as a budget instructions in every RFP. Be thoughtful and inclusive when developing your budget. Apply for your program's actual cost. And we generally cannot give more money than what you ask for. Use reasonable cost question on the application to discuss how you determine the cost reflected in the budget. Next slide, please. Pass it on to Nastasia.
Thank you. All right, so we are going to talk about the Permanent Supportive Housing RFP. So the purpose of the RFP is the Permanent Supportive Housing, including Safe Havens RFP, which was issued in April of 2025. The prior RFP sought applications from organizations that have experience providing wraparound services for persons who formerly experienced homelessness and now reside in permanent supportive housing programs and safe haven programs across Chicago. Insufficient responses were received for safe haven beds. The Chicago Department of Family and Support Services Homeless Division is issuing this RFP to fund up to 30 safe haven beds. These programs will serve chronically homeless individuals with severe mental illness and other conditions that hinder housing stability. DFSS seeks providers to offer safe, low-barrier environments while skilled staff engage residents in housing and support services. Next slide, please. The goals of Permanent Supportive Housing Support Services is to help individuals and families formerly experiencing homelessness maintain residential stability and permanent housing. PSHSS, which is just an acronym for Permanent Supportive Housing Support Services, are individualized, voluntary, and person-centered services provided to residents of PSH to promote housing stability, foster self-sufficiency, and improve quality of life. These services are typically long-term and are designed to address the complex needs of individuals with chronic health conditions, mental illness, substance use disorders, or disabilities who have experienced long-term homelessness. PSHSS achieves this goal by providing wraparound support services for persons who are residing in safe haven facilities. Permanent Supportive Housing Support Services, or PSHSS wraparound support services, provide comprehensive support with no time limits, helping to break the cycle of homelessness and housing stability by providing participants who have a hard time maintaining housing with support to improve their well-being. Next slide, please. So the current stating priorities for improvement, PSH programs combine stable housing with tailored support services, creating a platform for individuals to improve their well-being while maintaining housing stability. DFSS partners with agencies to deliver PSH support services that meet the needs of diverse subpopulations. Currently, DFSS funds 2 program types. The first is PSH support services, which is traditional PSH programs, providing support services in various housing settings for people formerly experiencing homelessness. The PSH support services RFP funds supportive services, but not rental subsidies. Safe havens, which are low barrier service enriched programs designed for individuals experiencing chronic homelessness, often with severe mental illness or co-occurring disorders, who have been unsheltered and historically disengaged from services. In 2024, DFSS funded PSH programs served 1,163 clients across 538 households, with 88 to 93% actively engaged in case management. These outcomes reflect the broad reach and impact of PSH, demonstrating its effectiveness in addressing homelessness through client-centered, flexible supports. PSH remains a cornerstone of DFSS's homelessness strategy, pairing housing stability with individualized services to promote both immediate stability and long-term well-being. Next slide, please. The target population for Safe Haven. So the target population for Safe Haven includes individuals who have severe mental illness and may have a co-occurring disabilities, have been previously unable or unwilling to participate in support services, are literally homeless who reside on the streets or places not meant for human habitation and have severe and persistent mental illness, have chronic health conditions. So a few examples are mental illness, substance use, and HIV and AIDS, and typically cycle in and out of a variety of crisis services, including hospital emergency departments and inpatient stays, psychiatric centers, jails, and prisons. Next slide, please. The program requirements. The program requirements for safe havens includes respondents must be able to demonstrate the ability to deliver at a minimum all of the following services. So engage hard to reach homeless persons and accept persons actively using substances, medication non-compliant and or with disabilities or special needs. Track, document reasons for program exits without housing, maintain 24/7 staff site coverage and provide daily living services, so meals and transportation. Offer pre-housing tenancy support, individualized case management, and wraparound services. Develop individualized service plans prioritizing housing stability. Create linkages to agencies offering supplementary services and refer clients to public benefits and employment. Accept referrals from CES and incorporate client feedback into services. Employ staff experienced in case management and housing stability for vulnerable populations. And incorporate housing first, harm reduction, trauma-informed care, and strength-based practices. For more information on these program requirements, please refer to the program requirements in the RFP for all program requirements and more information as well. Next slide, please. Performance goals and outcomes. So for this, DFSS is seeking respondents with evidence of strong past performance against desired outcome goals. Performance indicators include, but are not limited to, percent of households who remain permanently housed for 12 months, percent of households will exit to appropriate housing / level of care, percent households will attain their basic needs for shelter, food, and safety, and then percent of households will engage in supportive services as indicated by assessment of client needs and goals. Next slide, please. Selection criteria. So the selection criteria begins with community involvement. So DFSS will evaluate applications based on the following criteria. The respondent demonstrates a clear understanding of the target population, including their strengths and assets and needs and challenges. The respondent demonstrates client and community engagement activities that shape service delivery. The respondent has expertise working with target population and has relevant capabilities and or infrastructure needed to serve this group. And the respondent's leadership reflects and or engages the people of the community it serves. Next slide, please. For organizational capacity for the selection criteria, DFSS will evaluate applications based on the following criteria. The respondent has qualified staff responsible for program oversight and management. The respondent has adequate systems and processes to support monitoring program expenditures and fiscal controls. The respondent has secure data collection and management practices, along with adequate processes for quality assurance and timely data entry. Next slide, please. For selection criteria for strength of proposed program, DFSS will evaluate applications based on the following criteria. The respondent clearly defines services to be provided directly or through partnerships or linkage agreements with other agencies that are appropriate to addressing the needs of and achieving desired outcomes for the target population. The respondent's proposed program is supported by a strong national or local evidence base and or aligns with best practices for the relevant field. The respondent has effective approach to identifying and retaining program participants, including rules and regulations that reduce barriers to participation. And the respondent has partnerships or coordinates with other agencies to expand or improve services in a client-centered, comprehensive way. Next slide, please. For selection criteria for performance management and outcomes, DFSS will evaluate applications based on the following criteria. The respondent demonstrates evidence of strong past performance against desired outcomes, goals, and performance metrics and/or other notable accomplishments in providing services to the target population. The respondent has experience using data to identify problems in service delivery and inform and improve its services or practices. The respondent has experience disaggregating data to identify disparities in outcomes between different subgroups of their clients. The respondent has the relevant systems and processes needed to collect and store key participant and performance data. Next slide, please. Selection criteria for reasonable cost, budget justification, and leverage of funds. DFSS will evaluate applications based on the following criteria. The respondent has the fiscal capacity to implement the proposed program prior to reimbursement. The respondent leverages other funds and in-kind contributions to support total program and administrative costs. For example, state, federal, foundation, corporate, and other individual donations. The respondent demonstrates reasonable implementation costs and funding requests given the nature of the program proposed. The proposed budget supports the proposed scope of work or work plan. Next slide, please. Budgets or cost proposals. The term of contracts executed under this RFP will be from January 1st, 2026 to December 31st, 2028, based on need, availability of funds, and contractor performance. DFSS may extend this term for up to 2 additional years, with each extension not to exceed 1 year. We anticipate total annual funding of up to $300,000, with each award between $100,000 and $300,000, depending on the size of their proposed program. DFSS anticipates funding 1 to 2 programs. This contract will operate on a reimbursement basis only. No advances will be given. Please submit a budget for 1 year, 12 months of services. Cost category definitions are attached as budget instructions in every RFP, except RFPs that have cost proposals. Be thoughtful and inclusive when developing your budget. Apply for your program's actual costs. We generally cannot give you more money than what you ask. Use the reasonable cost questions on the application to discuss how you determine the cost reflected in the budget. Next slide, please. And I will pass this over to Kim.
Great. Thank you, Nastasha. Okay, last RFP, and then we will pause for questions on any of this. So the last RFP we'll talk about today is the FUSE RFP, or the Frequent User Service Engagement RFP. In this case, we issued this RFP in April 2025 and did not receive any sort of fully viable responses. And therefore we're releasing the current RFP, which covers the same services as the prior RFP. So specifically, the FUSE RFP is seeking applications from organizations that are experienced and capable in providing intensive case management and clinical services to vulnerable families experiencing homelessness to support their transition to stable housing. The goal is for the program to engage highly vulnerable families with children experiencing homelessness that are frequent users of the shelter system and to help them transition to more stable housing. We anticipate the program will do that by providing intensive case management and clinical services. And the selected agency must serve families citywide, conduct outreach and training, and offer supportive services like childcare, transportation, and job readiness, along with follow-up after shelter exit. Our ideal applicants for this RFP will have experience working with vulnerable families, mental health and housing services, and be able to deliver both in-person and virtual trauma-informed care. Currently, DFSS funds 1 provider to operate the FUSE program, and in 2024, there were 24 family households in Chicago served by the program. We seek to continue to improve services for those most vulnerable families and reduce the incidence of returns to homelessness among families, as well as to improve the process of identification and referral of eligible families to the FUSE program. The target population for the FUSE program is families who are identified as frequent users of the shelter system and may have multiple discharges from shelter programs. There are specific eligible requirements for the target population, which is the family needs to be experiencing homelessness and residing in a shelter within the city of Chicago. The parent must be at least 18 years of age, and the family must include one or more children who are under the age of 18. Specifically, we're sort of defining frequent users as families who've been in at least 3 or more shelters within a year from the point of referral, according to sort of records in the homeless management information system. Families should also be sort of at risk of discharge from their current shelter stay. So in terms of program requirements, the program is really focused on identifying the needs of these families and then providing intensive case management and clinical services to help them address their specific barriers to staying in shelter and moving towards permanent housing. And so we are looking for respondents who have the ability to deliver the following services. Intensive case management services, specific strategies for identifying outreach to families who meet the eligibility criteria, developing transition plans for families that will lead to more stable housing, providing trauma-informed crisis response support to prevent ongoing homelessness, and sort of any other supportive services that may be helpful for the family, including childcare, transportation, job readiness, school enrollment, and employment support. In terms of performance goals and outcomes, we will sort of monitor a set of performance indicators for this program that may include, but are not limited to, 70% of families moving to more stable housing, which could include staying with families and friends, moving into sort of more transitional housing program, or to permanent housing. We're looking for fewer than 10% of families to be discharged to another shelter program. And we're hoping that 85% of families will engage in ongoing specialized services based on individual assessments to promote their housing stability for 3 months after any type of housing is secured. We may also monitor the above metrics by race, ethnicity, gender, age, and other characteristics as appropriate to understand how the program is serving folks equitably. Okay, selection criteria is pretty similar to what you've heard for the previous two, so I will run through this quickly. We are looking for respondents to demonstrate community involvement, which includes a clear understanding of the target population, demonstrating client and community engagement activities that inform service delivery, expertise in working with the target population, and that the respondent's leadership reflects and engages the people and communities that it serves. Within the sort of organizational capacity criteria, we are looking for respondents who have enough qualified staff responsible for effective program oversight and management, adequate systems and processes to support monitoring program expenditures and fiscal controls, adequate human resources capacity to hire staff in a timely manner and manage staff effectively, and the relevant systems and processes to collect and store key participant and performance data. Under the strength of proposed program criteria, we're looking for respondents who will clearly define services to be provided, that the proposed program is supported by an evidence base, that the proposed program is an effective approach to identifying and retaining program participants, and that the respondent proposes to serve at least 25 families on an annual basis. Within performance management and outcomes, we're looking for respondents who can demonstrate evidence of strong past performance against desired outcome goals, or are able to sort of demonstrate experience or notable accomplishments in providing similar services to the target population. We're looking for respondents who have experience using data to inform or improve their services and practices, as well as the ability to disaggregate data to identify disparities in program delivery. And a note that we may use prior performance data already collected to inform this criteria. And then under the reasonable cost, budget justification, and leverage of funds criteria, we are looking for respondents who have the fiscal capacity to implement the proposed programs, who are able to leverage other funds or in-kind contributions to support their program, and who demonstrate reasonable implementation costs and funding requests relative to its financial and human resources. And with that, that is the full sort of selection criteria. The basics on sort of the funding allocations through this RFP and contract terms is that the contract will be from January 1st, 2026 to December 31st, 2028, with option to extend for up to 2 additional years. So the same as the other two. Continued support, of course, is dependent on continued availability of funding and the respondent's performance. We anticipate funding 1 agency for FUSE and anticipate funding at around $350,000 annually. In your applications, please submit a budget for 1 year of services. Same guidance as for the other RFPs. Follow the budget instructions as you complete your budget. Be thoughtful and inclusive. We generally can't give more money than what you ask for. And then please use the reasonable costs question in the application to share any sort of useful context for how you determine the costs reflected in your proposed budget. Okay, then across all 3 of these RFPs, just a note to look at in iSupplier what are required as attachments, and make sure that you are in fact attaching all of these to make sure that you have a complete application. So I will not read through this list, but this is consistent across all of the RFPs. And then also across all of the RFPs, basically the evaluation process is that the DFSS team will evaluate applications based on the strength of the proposal and the responsiveness to the selection criteria that we walked through today. Failure to submit a complete proposal or respond fully to all requirements may make your submission subject to rejection. We'll also note that the commissioner, upon review of recommended agencies, may reject, deny, or recommend agencies that have applied for grants based on previous performance and/or area need. And DFSS reserves the right to ensure that all mandated services are available citywide and provided in a linguistically and culturally appropriate manner. So just a reminder on timeline. The pre-proposal webinar is being held today on the 28th. But your deadline to submit pre-proposal questions is September 2nd, and we'll share contact information for how to submit questions related to the RFP. Applications are due on September 19th, and as we said, services will begin January 1st, 2026. Lastly, just a highlight on some of the sort of budget common errors that we see to be mindful of. Check your fringes, check the calculations for that. Supplies is also something where we can see sort of under or over budgeting. Client assistance is an allowable cost for all of these, so don't forget to include it. Make sure your job description titles and job description uploads have the same title. And also put a brief description of the job in the budget document itself if you haven't sort of fully fleshed out that job in your application. Put your budget in the appropriate column and show your match. So show where you're leveraging funds from other sources. And I think with that, we're going to pause here and take any questions on sort of the RFP content itself before we hand back to Jillian to walk through sort of the nuts and bolts of actually applying any procurement. So for folks who have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand, come off mute, or drop a question in the chat. We'll also pause for questions at the end if you want a little more time.
It doesn't seem to be any questions at this time, but we will be pausing again for questions at the end of the presentation. And oh, actually, one just came through. It says, do you want the job descriptions uploaded as well?
That is a good question. I think let's answer that in writing, just to make sure I'm being consistent across all of the RFPs and exactly what we said, is required. So thank you for that question.
And again, we will pause again towards the end of the presentation for more questions. At this time, we're gonna go into application tips. And our first, most important tip is to start your application as early as you can and save it often as you're working on it. And if you have never done business with the city of Chicago, please register into iSupplier, also known as e-procurement, as soon as possible. Remember to review the RFP narrative and applications questions closely. They align with the scope and the selection criteria. Use the information in the RFP for guidance in formulating your answers. There is a 4,000 character limit, which includes punctuation and spaces. Each response is allotted 4,000 characters. Please try not to use the back button on your browser. You could potentially lose your work. And again, we can't stress it enough to start your application as early as you can. Just a couple tips for working in e-procurement. To submit multiple applications for a single RFP, applicants will need to set up a unique user account in iSupplier. The e-procurement system is not capable of submitting more than one distinct proposal per associated email address. Therefore, you must use a separate email address for each submission. You can submit your application and later amend it up until the due date of September 19th, 2025 at 12 noon. Please try to avoid the rush and possible mishaps by submitting your application early. And plan on your submission taking approximately 30 to 60 minutes. Please be advised that late applications cannot be accepted and can only be accepted through the e-procurement iSupplier program. Make use of the e-procurement hotline for assistance at 312-744-4357. Please note that this hotline operates during business hours only, which are Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And again, please try to submit your application as early as you can and save it often as you're working on it. As far as agency requirements, we require agencies to provide articles of incorporation or any amended articles of incorporation. We also require an IRS affirmation letter, and this is for not-for-profit agencies only. The letter must be dated within 60 days of your submission. You can obtain this letter by calling the IRS directly at 1-877-829-5500. If you are a for-profit agency, please submit your original letter from the IRS showing your FEIN number. Your UEI number is required, as well as the central contractor registration, which can be obtained on the entity overview page on the sam.gov website. And lastly, a certificate of good standing letter with the state of Illinois is required. As of April of 2024, we have a new labor peace agreement ordinance, which will apply to all DFSS and CDPH delegates that have 20 or more employees working for their organization. The only exemptions are hospitals. Contractor must provide written notice to the commissioner or her designee within 72 hours of becoming aware that employees want to organize or that unions seek to represent employees. You may ask, what is an LPA? A labor peace agreement is an agreement between an employer and a labor union that ensures that an organizing drive is not impacted by union busting techniques, including employee retaliation. And in return, they will not strike or stop work in a way that will impact human services. For technical assistance, on the DFSS webpage, there will be a link to the RFP of interest and training documents. Please see alert section on the website. And for questions on registration and e-procurement assistance for delegate agencies, please contact customer support at cityofchicago.org. And they also can be reached via phone at 312-744-4357. And we also have training materials online, which includes documents and videos. Please visit the cityofchicago.org website under iSupplier and online training materials. And at this time, we're going to delve into how to enter your response and accepting any amendments. Step 1, you select Create Quote from the drop-down menu in the Actions box, and then you click Go. This will take you to the application page where you can get started. If the RFP you are interested in has been amended, and in this case it will be, you will need to acknowledge and accept the amendment to start or submit a response. To accept the amendment, please click View Amendment History, circled here. Step 2, to begin the acceptance and acknowledgement process, please follow these steps after clicking View Amendment History. First, you click on the document number. Next, click on the infinity or eyeglass icon to review the amended changes to the RFP. And then you click on Acknowledge Amendments button to acknowledge receipt and understanding of the changes and proceed. And by acknowledging the amendment, you are indicating that you are aware of the changes made to the RFP in the amendment. Step 3, when you get to this screen, click on the I accept checkbox and then click on Acknowledge. Next, click on Yes to indicate that you confirm your acknowledgement of the amendment. And lastly, you click on the checkbox that you accept the terms and conditions, and then click on Accept to accept them. And this is the final step in acknowledging and accepting the amendment. Once you have accepted the amendment, you can move forward with submitting your application, which we'll go into now. So when you are ready to submit your application, meaning that you've completed each requirement question to the best of your ability and you've attached all required documents and triple checked everything, and you will start by saving your draft one last time and then clicking Continue. When you click Continue, and if you are missing information, iSupplier will give you an error message at the top of the page. Usually that error message directs to something left undone in the application. So in the last example, the error message indicated that the lines found under the Lines tab had not been completed. In this example, the error is about an unanswered question in the application or the requirement section. The quote value refers to your, in this case, missing answer. So once you've resolved the error and your application is free from errors, you are ready to proceed and submit. And at this point, clicking Continue should put your application into the review and submit phase. Once you get to the review and submit phase, it is your last chance to review all of your data and to confirm that everything is accurate. So please use this time to check your attachments and scroll down to the bottom of the screen to see all of your responses. And at the very bottom of the screen, you'll be asked to provide an electronic signature. Please be sure to fill in the signature before checking the box. And then you can finally submit your application. Once your application is successfully submitted, you will receive a submittal confirmation screen, similar to what is on the screen here. The e-procurement system will also send a confirmation email within 24 hours of your submission. However, if you haven't received that email and you just want to make sure that your submission has been received, please feel free to call or email me if you desire confirmation prior to then. At this time, we're gonna pause again for questions. And if you don't have any questions at this time, you do still have time to ask questions. I believe our RFP deadline, our question deadline is Tuesday, September 2nd at 5 p.m. So if you don't have any questions at this time, you do still have time to ask questions. And if you think of any questions to ask after the webinar has been completed, those can be sent to the RFP captain listed here, Lucy Morales. Her contact information is listed on the screen. And for any non-programmatic questions, so if you're having any issues with iSupplier, you can contact the eProcurement hotline. Again, they're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And they can be reached by phone at 312-744-4357. And as well as email, and their email is customersupport@cityofchicago.org. And you can also reach out to me. My name is Jillian Black, and my email is listed on the screen as well. I do see a couple of questions that came through just now. It says, will the slides be emailed? The slides will not be emailed, but they will be, this webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be uploaded on the DFSS YouTube page. So be on the lookout for that. Next question, it says, are these for city-owned or city-leased buildings, or would the applicant have to possess the building?
Yeah, I can jump in on that one. Yeah, so for both the youth dedicated shelter RFP and the safe havens RFP, we do not have sort of city owned or city leased buildings that are listed in the RFPs that we're seeking operators for. In both of those cases, we need applicants to propose where they are planning to operate the program.
Thank you. And we do have another question. It says, our shelter takes everyone 18 and over. If we apply for this, can the 18 to 24 population continue to be part of our interim housing program?
Got it. That's a good question. Yeah, so you'll see in the youth dedicated RFP that we're specifically seeking a program that specializes in serving a population either 18 to 24 or 14 to 24. So we're looking for proposals that are sort of specific to serving that population and bring in sort of specialized staffing and services to meet those needs.
Thank you. It says, could you go back to the slide that says agency requirements? Agency requirements. So agency requirements, we require articles of incorporation and any amended articles of incorporation. We also require an IRS affirmation letter for not-for-profit agencies, and for for-profit agencies, we require the IRS original letter showing the FEIN number. We require a UEI number, and we also require the entity overview page for your essential contractor registration, and we require the certificate of good standing letter with the state of Illinois. And again, this webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded on the DFSS YouTube channel. Why not post the slides for easy access? Reading. The slides are a part of the recording and will be uploaded to the DFSS YouTube channel. Do your IRS letter have to be 60 days new or can it be older? Your IRS letter must be dated within 60 days of your submission. I believe that is all the questions at this time. Again, you do still have time to ask questions up until September 2nd at 5 p.m. I will list our contact information one more time before we log out. Before we close out, homeless team, do we have anything to add?
Jillian, I see we saw a couple more questions that just came in.
Okay.
I think 2 on the IRS letter, if you can take those.
Okay. Let's see. If you are not a new agency, does that mean you do not have to upload the IRS letter? The IRS letter is required for every business. We can provide more information in the amendment regarding this requirement. Yes, you will have to get an updated IRS letter, yes.
And then this last question I can take is, so if we have dedicated staff and programming for the 18 to 24 group, we can apply. Yes, so we are seeking proposals for programs that serve either 18 to 24-year-olds or 14 to 24-year-olds. So if you have sort of dedicated beds and programming for that population, we look forward to reading your application.
Thank you. And I do see one last question about the slides. I can try to work on getting the slides posted, but if not, then we will have to just work with the webinar recording. But I will try to have the slides posted on the website. And I think that might be all of the questions.
Great. All right. Well, in that case, I will just say, thanks to the team for presenting today. Thanks to all of you for joining us and for your interest in this funding opportunity. We look forward to reading your applications.
Thank you. Thank you all for attending our webinar for these 3 RFP re-releases. Good luck on your responses and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks.